All right. Good morning, everybody. How's it going, Quinman over on Twitch? Pull a few more of these windows around, and then I think we're ready to go. Check the sound to OBS. Yeah, it looks like we got sound to OBS. Switch this real quick. Oop. Do that. Okay. Oh. I'm doing pretty good as well. Yeah, thank you. Sounds good. Thank you. C. Grover, how's it going? Good morning. All right, good morning to everyone. For anybody that might be new, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. We're working on CircuitPython stuff. CircuitPython, if you don't know anything about it, you can learn more at CircuitPython.org. This is basically a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers, such as this one here, Raspberry Pi Pico W. CircuitPython runs on this device. It then gets plugged into your computer with a USB cable. It shows up as a thumb drive. You can edit the Python code file that's on there, and then it will run whatever code is in there. In this case, I have it hooked up to a display through this ribbon cable, but obviously it's kind of a generalized tool. You can do lots of different things with it. Displays like I'm doing are just one small part. So you can learn more at circuitpython.org. Also encourage you to join us over on the Discord, which I have linked down below. During the stream, we're in the live broadcast chat channel on that Discord, but throughout the week, when there aren't streams going on, there are also CircuitPython dev and help with CircuitPython channels where you can discuss all things CircuitPython. Thanks to Adafruit. This is their website, adafruit.com. Thanks to Adafruit for funding the CircuitPython project. They're paying the folks who work on the project, like myself. So thank you to them. And if you want to head over to adafruit.com and purchase hardware from them, thank you to you as well. You are helping keep the whole thing moving by buying hardware from them. Thanks for that. I, this morning, am jumping straight in. Kind of a continuation of what we did last night, but we're taking a new angle on it. I do want to attempt one of the I2CDisplays. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know if it's actually even possible because I don't think any other devices are set up this way. So we'll see how it goes. Basically, what we need to do is, wow, hopefully the cat is going to chill here pretty soon because that is a bit distracting. He is like tearing around back and forth as fast as he can up and down the stairs. Okay, anyway. We're inside board C here, which is in the core. This is what we made last night, basically a new board definition, which initializes a display inside this file. We want to do that same basic thing, but we want an I2C display, which means we're not going to be constructing the SPI bus. We're not going to be doing this stuff. We're going to be making the I2C bus instead. We are not going to make a 4-wire, but instead we want to make a thing that is called an I2C display. Which is also sometimes referred to as a display bus. Where's the example I'm looking for? That's this one. Okay, so this is the Python code that achieves what we want, but obviously it'll be a bit different since we're going to be in the core. So this is making a display bus object from this I2C display. This is kind of taking the place of 4-wire. in my mind, this is how I'm thinking of it. I don't know technically how correct that is or not or whatever, but this is how I'm thinking of it. So instead of 4-wire, we're going to be configuring, initializing this I2CDisplay object. That is our bus. That bus then gets passed into the constructor in this Python code, the constructor for the display specifically, which has a bunch of setup code and all kinds of stuff that makes it easy to use right out of the box. In our case, of course, we're not going to be using the driver library because that is at the Python layer. We will be doing this display.io display construct, but we'll be passing the display bus, which we initialized back here, that I2CDisplay object, which will be our bus. We'll give it all the rest of the stuff it needs, which we basically need to get from inside of here, which is the actual driver. So this is calling Adafruit Display.io sh1107. This is that sh1107 Display.io driver up there. So we would basically be doing the stuff that is in init here, but from inside the core, which it's pretty similar to the SPY one. It has a init sequence. It's passing all these values. It is calling super init, which is display.io display, which is the same function as this. So I'm pretty sure that maybe it might work. Pretty sure that maybe it might work. Yes, I am that. I am pretty sure that maybe it might work. So that's kind of what we're going to try. It's not going to be on the PicoW, though, because the easiest to use I2CDisplay that I have right here is one of these feather wings. And the PicoW doesn't connect to feather wings directly. It's not going to be this one. This one is a bit of an odd one. It is a SPY display, I believe we discovered yesterday, but its reset pin is connected to the seesaw. So you would need to initialize I2C and set up the seesaw in order to toggle the reset pin in order to make the thing turn on. But this one is the SH11 whatever we were just looking at. 1107. I'm pretty sure, although we should double check this before we get super duper far into this. Yeah. 128 by 64. 3 buttons on the, well, they're on the left, I guess, when it's right side up. You could flip it around. Doesn't really matter which way it goes for now. So that's a Feather RP2040. So we will grab a copy of that to start with. VI one. I've not seen much about this one. I think it's been on maybe Desk of Lady Ada or some of those shows, which I haven't caught as much of lately. The thing is this, it can output to an HDMI cable, I think, right? That's pretty fun. How's it going, DJ Devin? Good morning. How's it going, Neardoc? Good morning. I am trying to do a built-in I2C display. Last night we did the built-in SPY display. I want to see if I can make a board definition for a built-in I2C display, which this one happens to be the one that I'm going to test with, but obviously there's a bunch of different ones out there that it could be. So we're going to start from Feather. That's a very long name. Do we need Foamy Guy? I don't know that we need Foamy Guy. It's not like a board I'm designing or anything. We're not going to add it. No, that's all right. I mean, I guess eventually I could make a commit with this. I don't necessarily intend to PR. I mean, define Scratch, I guess. I'm gonna copy the Feather RP2040, and I'm gonna try to mash together the code that we did last night, which was like in here. This one is doing the SPY display setup. I'm gonna try to mash this together with essentially the Python code on this side, which is inside the driver, which would be how you would do it from user code. Sorry, I went to eat. No, you don't have to apologize for, definitely not for eating or leaving for anything, honestly. But I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Would it be possible to allow any external display to use built-in display initializations? Be nice so everything becomes the same for any display. It would be possible, as far as I understand, to make custom builds of CircuitPython with any display you want as the designated built-in display. Much like I did yesterday with the I2CDisplay, we made a custom, I should say, a custom board definition, because it's kind of a bit more than just a build. You do have to actually kind of modify the board definition, which you could copy paste and modify it like I did, or I suppose you could modify it in place if you wanted, but then you wouldn't necessarily commit it back either. So yes, but it's not, it's kind of it's pretty high barrier to entry, I guess, because you have to kind of copy that and then kind of write all the code that's inside pins, or not pins, but rather board, which you don't necessarily have to like write it from scratch, but you kind of have to convert it from user code level Python down into core level C. So it is possible, as far as I know, to do any display. SPY display, at least. We'll find out about I2CDisplays today. How's it going, Charles B? Good morning. Actually not sure what you mean by that. If it's not a built-in display, you wouldn't set it up built-in. No, I mean, I'm going to try to set it up as built-in. Like, technically, it is obviously not built-in, right? It's separate device. It's the Featherwing. It's not connected. But I just want to go through the exercise of making a board definition where it thinks that display is connected. So like last night, the one we made was for this Pico. I will swap back in here. So we made a board definition for the Pico W where it initializes this I2CD display as though it's a built-in display. I know obviously it's not, it's all wired together with spaghetti and breadboards, but I wanted to make the board definition as though it was. That way, with that particular build, you can use board.display and it will be this display, even though it's not built in. There are two build boards, which ones? Because that's what I need to look at for sure. So I tried to find that actually with grep and I came up empty. So I assumed it would need to call this, and I did git grep this. And then I assumed it would have to be inside ports, and then some port, and then boards, and then some board, and then board.c. Oh, okay, so obviously there is one right here that I just missed in front of my face. Although this is commented out, let's go to this. I wish I could click into this. One space LCD42 under expressive. Thank you for that. I did not know that. Lol and Pico and one space. It's at the top of the list, right? That's why it's commented out. Huh. Yeah. Okay. This looks good. This is basically what I had imagined, so that's a good sign. I use board I2C on this, like, because it's shared. I gotcha. That's good to reference, because I probably would have done it this way, which I guess would have been wrong then. Or not wrong, but not able to be shared afterwards. How does it know? I guess... Well, okay, it just relies on this being declared inside pins. Is that right? Like, the reason why that works is because this is defined here. That's not it, though, right? There needs to be something else, too, because there would have to know specific pins. That. Okay. 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 Yeah, thank you. Didn't realize a built-in had to go through the whole build process and make stuff. That makes sense, though, just so certain pins are always reserved for the display, so other GPIO cannot be used with it. Yeah, I mean, there will always be some pins that you can use for other stuff as well, like with SPI. You can still use it with other stuff, you just have different chip select pins, right, for each different thing that's connected. And then I2C, obviously, like you can use it with other things as well, and it's the addresses is what keeps it separate rather than the chip select pins. I should make a scope with... See, my problem is I keep cloning new projects and then... Not new projects, but new clones of CircuitPython, and these don't carry over. I did find the place where I can copy them, but it's like in a random XML file somewhere buried inside IDEA folder. It's not particularly convenient. What is Lolin? What port is that other one you said? Lolin, which one? There's multiple. Lolin Pico. It's that one. And we can easily go back and forth between all of the relevant files. Let's close everything. So actually, this is easier than I thought. We don't have to kind of copy from... I mean, we still have to copy some from the Python code, but we actually have a lot more C code that we could copy here instead. Which I am going to start by ganking pretty much all of. We will have to change some of these. Like, I know for sure this addressing is specific for this display, so that'll be true for us. Let me catch up on the chat also. And how create I2C. Note that any display init basically calls the same function as in board.c, just through the Python interface. Display drivers are almost always just a set of settings in an init sequence. Yeah, I have noticed that. Call start, row start, lolin s2 Pico Expressive, is that the one I ended up with? Or S2 Pico? Yeah, it was. Okay. Nice. Always wondered how Adafruit built-in features don't conflict. The buses are available. It's just the... Yep. Yep. And I2C, I don't know if it's reserved, so to speak. I think it relies on all the participants in the bus to ignore traffic that's not theirs. I think it doesn't necessarily lock anybody out. It just says, like, this message is for, 0x3e or whatever, and everybody else is like, oh, that's not me, so I'll ignore it. That's my understanding, which is very well subject to being wrong for sure. Usually the pins are not shared. TFT, Feather are the only case I know where the display shares board SPI. Oh, really? Interesting. I assumed all of them. Like, I assumed like PyGamer, PyBadge, PyPortal. Well, does PyPortal maybe use Parallel instead? But like PyBadge and those, they're not on the shared SPI bus. Do they have a separate one or? So this will definitely be different. We're gonna snag that from basically the Python code. However, I will say it does get a bit dicey here because it's got a different version for less than 7. So we want this one. I'm tempted to write Python code that converts this. Is that a silly idea? It's definitely a rabbit hole. It's definitely aside from the thing I want to work on. However, if we were to do that, it will make doing the thing that I'm trying to do a lot faster. I like to iterate if I wanted to do more displays. Yeah. We're going to take a short detour and try this real fast. I mean, I don't think it will be but 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, something like this to whip up a script that will basically convert these for us. That way we could always just copy from the Python driver and then run it through this and it will spit out the C array or whatever that thing is. I'm going to start by just putting it here. Like, eventually we'll probably read it out of a file or something. Doesn't really matter where it comes from too much. Reason behind it, oh, let me catch up here. Some have multiple. PyBadge, PyPortal, they don't have a SPI bus with broken out. Oh, that's a good point. Well, no, they have the feather thing on the back. PyPortal does not. PyBadge does, though, I think. Or unless PyGamer is different. I think it has, though. They have a feather stamp on the back. Which, I mean, has SPI pins, but maybe it's a separate bus. I2C shares clock timing where SPI can alter the clock frequency phase per device. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. SPI is versatile for a shared bus architecture. Reason it's shared is probably because of routing considerations, unless it ran out of pins. Seems unlikely. So we're going to go through each line. Let's do this one at a time, though. Let's just make sure that we're not messing it up. Crap I fall into sometimes is like do this whole thing through to the end. That's awkward. What are those? Oh, that's because it's trying to print those as like bytes or whatever. That's fine, though. I think the real data is not that. The real data is a string. There's potentially probably an easier way to do this, but that 2 spaces. We could actually split on space space this, and then we go 0. Edge has dedicated SPI pins for the display. Nice, and the feather is on different pins. It does technically have basically 2 buses then. At least 2 buses. I did not know that. Quoted string is going to be first half dot. We can just What is that about? Is that actually commented? There's a couple commented actually. So we should have like we should say if line dot starts with, if not line starts with this. Oops. First half quoted string is going to be just, how do you take off the first character? Nope. That's the one. Quoted string. Is it? Where's run? Why is run not here? Why is run? Oh, I can see. Run's over here. This is going to be harder than I thought, right? Because they're not actually a string, are they? Why are these not strings? I guess because they have this. They're escaped into being bytes. But I need to convert them to hex notation. Yeah, I'm sure this is possible, but I don't actually know the right way to convert it. So I think I'm going to bail on this for now and do this one manually, fortunately. We did find yesterday I was able to do what? It was like /x is going to be 0x. And then we need some commas. Every chip supported by CP has at least 2. Oh, wow. We're going to delete the commented lines. We are going to delete this. Then we're basically there, although we do need a comma here. And then we can actually even just convert the comment over to... We don't really need the comma on the last one. There we go. It is a bit different. The one that was there was not using hex for this middle column for some reason. I don't really know. That's like, I don't know if there's a downside to using hex. I mean, I guess I could get rid of it, but what was column mode? I don't remember. Column Alt Shift Insert. Yeah, I'm not going to remember that. Alt Shift Insert. I wish I could Control Alt L. I guess I can. Okay. What else? Did it change anything else? It did. It changed like all of this too to be bad. I mean, I guess I could do this. Let's do that section. There we go. IMX, I think, has 4. Jeez. 2 I2Cs and 2 UARTs as well. Dang. Does it work like the Pico? I haven't really messed with IMX at all yet. Does it work like the Pico where they can like go to many different sets of pins? SPI peripheral allocated in order of desirability if possible, such as highest speed and not shared. Use first. For instance, with the NRF, there is a single 32 megahertz SPI and multiple 8s, which may also be used for I2C. The 32 is returned first, and then the exclusive 8, and finally the shared 8. Yeah, that is kind of crazy. I did not know that there was that much going on when you call board.spy. I thought it, like in my head, it was just that's the SPI bus, and you get the one kind of instance of it. Pico is the one kind of one that I knew was different because it has 2 that are available on the pins, and they can go to all these different pins somehow magically. I used hex because it was copy pasted and then fine replaced the Python driver, which uses byte string. I've only loaded CircuitPython on the IMX, haven't tried to use it yet. Still working on printed T enclosure, 7-inch enclosure. Jeez. Get to the iDuctor. That's bus IO I2C. I gotcha. So that's our sequence, and then we are gonna have to do some stuff here. Like this will be different. Address 3C, I think. Oh, interesting. Maybe this was the same display. Did I just replace all these with the same things? I didn't actually look that close at them before I replaced them. I wonder if we just overwrote the same things. This part's different, I guess, so they were at least somewhat different. So we'd have 128 by 64. I'll start. That stuff is going to be inside the driver here. And it doesn't actually say anything about... Oh, you know what? It does this too, though. Do I need to do this? That seems important. Fun fact, RP2040 is actually the most restricted for pins. ESP can use any pins for any peripheral. Really? ML and NRF too? Maybe with some restrictions when using more than one peripheral in some conflicts, I believe. Interesting. I did not know that either. I feel like we're probably gonna need this stuff, right? How do we inject something at 16 and 19? This is a init sequence. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 17, 18, 19. So this one actually I think is already set. This one might be, I think this one might be set for us already as well, actually. It seems like. 128, that's how I'm understanding that comment, but maybe not, because it's like multiplex, which is going to be width -1. And then display offset, I'm pretty sure, was just x60, right? 0x60, yeah. Let's try it like this. Let's try it like this. Probably be all right, maybe. It's the worst that could happen. Probably something pretty bad, but hopefully it won't. So these were not put into the Python driver, so I guess we're going to go with 0. Rotation we'll leave on 0. Color depth is 1. Grayscale is true. Pixels byte share row. Pixels in row. Why is this clickable but doesn't do anything when you click it? Why does that not pop open when you're in half size? This is gonna be, okay, so we're using greater than 7, which was this one. I believe false. It does have, maybe we would have wanted that actually. I don't know. If the rotation is wrong, we'll mess with it. Let's go, yeah, false for pixels in row. Bytes per cell, so that gets different order, I guess, actually. We would have to actually know the right order, probably, to go through some of the rest of them. Brightness command we don't have. Reverse pixels in byte. Don't have. Lower column command? Row command? I don't know for sure. Those are for right RAM command. Init sequence. No backlight, pin, brightness. We would have to probably go look at the order of all the arguments in here to be able to find all of these. Oh, okay, there's brightness command. In order to find the defaults for the ones that aren't used over here, single byte bounds true. Data as commands true. Auto refresh, we could say true. Okay. Let's try it like that. So we would need the display thing inside of here, I think. Anything else? Be it. It is actually kind of nice that you don't have to declare the pins if you do it this way. Honestly, I wonder if that would be better for the one that I did last night. Maybe we should be doing common how board create spy rather than, well, but I mean, I have it, well, but it's on the Pico, I guess, right? So it doesn't have that, I think. And I have it wired to the specific pins I chose, so that's not going to work, yeah. Okay. Never mind. It's easy to take the, like, I use feathers a lot, and it's easy to think of all microcontrollers as feathers when that is not the case, and the pins don't carry over as easily sometimes. Let me catch up here. Actually pretty far behind. Let's see, when I install CircuitPython or anything, first lib, I drag and drop bus device. It is, yeah, it's built in on, I think, lots of devices, maybe not the smallest ones, but only, I mean, like only maybe the last year or so, or something like that, I think. Mark Gambler worked on implementing it in the core, and I don't believe it was built in before that, but I'm not sure. Maybe some of them froze it. Neither does Circuit. That's true. Yeah, I have seen Circuit download it and put it in on a lot of them. In the point of knowing which ones it needs. Yeah, it kind of is in a weird state because it got changed. No real way to know if it's built in or not. Yeah, the database, we'd have to keep like a list of this board has it, this board doesn't, this board has it, this board doesn't, and have to be always up to date over time and everything. Maybe there could be another command with Circuit. Maybe there could be a flag like include bus device, you know, -- include bus device. And if you don't put that flag, then it won't give it to you. Can it connect to REPL? It could try connecting to REPL and importing bus device, maybe. That's probably not worth it. That's probably a lot of extra steps for it to do. I wish this... I gotta figure out tab completion one of these days and somehow make it so these will tab complete from like LS boards. All right. Let's do V1. Fingers crossed here. Was this random segmentation fault, or is this something I did wrong? Random segmentation fault. So, I mean, I'm glad that, knock on wood, fingers crossed, every other superstitious thing we can think of, that it hasn't been freezing my computer lately, but I am still having this, and I still need to try to figure out what to do about it. Anecdotally, within the last few days at least, though, one of the things I've noticed is it seems like the first one, right? We got one bad one last night. The first one I did failed with a random segmentation fault, and then we got a success after that, and the same thing here. First one failed. Second one also failed, but it's because I failed to do something. Displays is undeclared. Probably we need to import... Wait, which one? Okay, that's in pins. Yeah, I think I need another include in there. I think we need like display IO. Yeah, this one. Connecting to REPL is a whole other story, though. I have to find it, which Disco tool can, but I think it's pretty outside the scope of Circuit currently. Yeah, I would agree with that, I think, too. Maybe it's probably not worth it either, but another potential way it could be solved is if boot out would include like bus device true or something, right? Like maybe if boot out included this device has bus device in its thing, then Circuit could look from there. Honestly, a list of all the built-in modules inside boot out would be kind of nice, wouldn't it? I guess it will take up space, but that might be kind of nice as a troubleshooting thing, because then it's always like, just look right here, and if the one you're trying to use is not in the list, then it doesn't have it. And a project sends out using it. Maybe in the future, if we had AMP remote, like Circuit, installing via the REPL space. I wonder how big that list is. Is NeoPixel included on boards that have a NeoPixel? I'm not sure. Yeah, frozen in. I think it's frozen into some of them, but I don't know if it's all of like everyone that has the onboard NeoPixel or not. I would guess probably is. I mean, as long as there's room for it. I don't know how it works, but I suspect the core controls the NeoPixel even without the NeoPixel library too, though, right? Like, for instance, my device is in REPL right now, and it has the white light on the NeoPixel. And so something inside the core was able to set it to white, I would assume. Does this one double tap reset? I think it does, but I fail to do it a lot. I'm going to do boot select instead, just because that's actually a lot easier. But I think maybe double tap reset does work. I just get the timing wrong and then end up resetting a bunch of extra times, which also sometimes freezes my computer, which is not ideal. Nope, wrong. Wrong. That's better. Boot out currently is, oh, okay, limited to 512 bytes, 1 block to avoid write errors on boot killing the drive. That's probably a really good idea that I had not considered at all. Yeah, and it probably would, I would assume maybe on the devices with lots of built-in modules, it might crest above 512 bytes. That's not too much text. Or knows how to use NeoPixels and dot stars, gotcha. Yeah, so that actually worked. We have a display, we have tiny black and white blinkas on there. I'm pretty sure we're probably, obviously, like, orientation looks to be wrong, but that's pretty good. That is pretty good for a first run. So rotation, I guess, it was 0 here. What's different in the Python code? So I guess I should have gone with It's that actually does. Defaults to 0. Rotate. Where does this get used? Ah, yeah, totally missed that. Okay, basically we need 90. Basically, landscape and portrait are swapped. Ordinarily, 90 would be portrait. That's how I would think of it, at least. In this case, it's the other way around. 90 is going to be landscape. This is not the code file we want. That was fast. I took Starship back off, but I am probably going to put it back. It failed on a long-running command, but I think that happened before. I think I need to go set whatever it told me to set. But last night, I just wanted to remove things that could potentially be breaking. I noticed actually they did fix that fetch submodule thing as well. There's a new commit, a new PR, I should say, for fetch submodules that is supposed to fall back on the old. This is not the right one. This is the original PR that changed it, but there's a new PR that Dan put in that is supposed to fix that fetch submodules, I think, for the old Git. And he also told me how he got the newer Git, which is similar to what I found searching around, but didn't want to just go and try because, like, if I mess up my Git and I can't get it back to working, then I'm going to be kind of screwed for not only CircuitPython, but work. So I was wanting to get, I guess, basically just assurance the thing that I was reading was the right thing. We on BootPy? Yes. Double tap reset, hold boot and reset, hold boot while plugging in. Yeah. We have branched into quite a few ways. Or last night I was using that import, which I found pretty convenient as well from the REPL. Note that NeoPixel library is basically for handling pixel buff and calling NeoPixel write, both of which are built-in libraries. .star uses pixel buff and spy. Oh, interesting. Got another secret handshake, yeah. Advocate for board status, which would be a NeoPixel compatible built-in instance. Board status, like that would return to you essentially like a NeoPixel object in the same way that board.display returns to you a display object. So you could then like set color on that. That would be pretty cool. That way, like, your user code doesn't have to like go out of its way to initialize it, and it has a super easy way to give feedback to the user. Sounds pretty cool. We did get this right orientation now, or it's upside down, I guess, but you know, upside down is one of the right orientations. We could either turn this around, or I suppose we could change the code to 270 instead if we really wanted, but so at this point, we should be able to just do like board.display stuff on here. This would be just failing to initialize the other display, basically. Yeah. Well, the seesaw in this case. We can just get rid of this stuff. Let me keep some of it, actually. Let me keep a little bit. Okay, so we only have two colors, so let's go with a white. Let's go with a white border, then a black inside, and then white text in the middle. So white border, which is technically like our background. I have caps lock on? When did I turn caps lock on? Oh, probably for display, I guess. Oh, nice. Does that work? Is this like sacrilegious? SpongeBob hex? Background 00 sprite, yes. Inner rectangle here. Let's go 20 seems pretty big for this display. Let's make it 10. This will be black. We don't actually need all the zeros. Sprite. Oh, we would need this to be 5. Maybe we should do 20. I guess 20 is 10 all the way around. Inner sprite, draw a label, hello world label, yep. Center it, boom, put it into there. Yeah. No, no dice. What do we got? Untype has no object show. That means we don't have board.display. You have board.display, but it's none. Maybe this had display.io release displays inside of it. I think that released my display. I'm going to unplug, replug. That was not the right plug. That one was. Yeah. The old code, it had display.io release displays. That released the built-in display. It doesn't get reinitialized until it reboots. So this was actually working before, just it couldn't because the display was gone. Makes sense. Board status LED. That way you don't need to add a library and instantiate. Yeah, I think that would be pretty sweet, actually. I think that would be nice for providing a very basic way to give output. Like, I will say that's one of the things that I struggle with sometimes is like, if you have the serial console, output is super easy. Just print it, you can read it, no problem. It makes debugging easy. If you don't have the serial console, though, debugging can sometimes be quite a pain. If you had a NeoPixel that was easily set up, doesn't require any additional code or anything, that's really nice because then you can start doing things like this color means this output, or, you know, set it to this color once we get to here, set it to that color once we get to here. You can kind of start gleaning information about what's going on, you know, in a basic way without relying on too much extra infrastructure, which is good when stuff is going wrong, because usually when it rains, it pours. On some boards, they want you to use the single NeoPixel with the library to get you accustomed to using the library for the strips. I could see that, yeah. Changing to a different initialization. No, I mean, it doesn't defeat it, though, right? Because you could still use it that way, I think. I think you could still do it the same way. Like, maybe you need a release or whatever, kind of like we do with the display, but you could still set it up and do it that way as well. This would just be, like, a different avenue. And I would say they're kind of different purposes in a way. Like, status, in my mind, if you are using it as status, I would say, like, it's meant for status. So red for bad, green for good, that kind of thing. Like, whatever scheme you want, the colors, actual specific colors don't matter. But, like, you're trying to give status of the program, whereas with a strip, or a single one that's more like just a visual element, right? If you're using the NeoPixel as a red glow inside of a lamp or something, in that situation, you could still use status for it if it was set up this way, but, like, personally, I'd argue not using status for that and instead instantiating it as a NeoPixel. It's like semantical, doesn't really technically matter. It's extra code, but in my mind, it makes more sense that way. Like if you're using it as status, then you would use that one. And if you're not, you would just do it the same way that you initialize the real ones today, which would make it easy if you then want to swap in a strip. Like if you're doing some kind of art project or whatever, you can test it out with one NeoPixel, you know, try your animations or whatever you're doing, and then swap it out to a whole strip. Board LED. Having it as an alias, yeah, definitely interesting. Okay. Okay. I'm feeling pretty good about this. I think I was not. Thank you again, Hug Report, definitely to NearDoc. I did not know about those I2C built-in ones, and that definitely made this a lot easier because we're not trying to convert from SPI while we go. Instead, we got to start from an I2CDisplay and did not have to change very much, turns out. Which is pretty cool. While we're here, this device has these three buttons. These three buttons? What are these connected to? Because if those are just regular old pins, maybe another thing that would be a good as part of this exercise is adding definitions in here, like button A, button B, button C, since they are labeled and, you know, obviously they're not actually built in, but neither is the display. We're kind of treating this as though it were built in, even though it's not. Yeah, let's see how those are connected. If it's like a seesaw or something, then we may not be able to just easily map them, but see how it goes. Oh, added those like last week. I gotcha. Nice. Thank you, then, by the way, for trudging the new ground. Giving the rest of us something to reference off of. If I could set LED status true. Oops. Oops. Sometimes I feel like, do some guides have the Learn Guide linked here? I know this one is usually, I feel like sometimes I click the bottom link here and it takes me to the Learn Guide, but maybe I'm totally off. I know they're close together. Maybe I'm just getting them confused. What are we actually connected to here? Yeah, okay. They're just broken out to pins. You could probably change them or something, right? Or I guess not really. 9, 6, and 5 for A, B, and C. So I think we should put them next to the ones that they are, right? is usually when there's pins with two things, I think they're next to each other. Like 13 is LED. Those are the same pin. So it was, what now? 9, 6, and 5? Yeah, 9, 6, 5, ABC. Why do I keep going back to PyCharm? Okay, 9. So this is going to be, button A? Is that how it is on, like... I'll look at maybe Clue or something here in a minute. And actually, yeah, that would be the same, okay. Or Circuit Playground Express, maybe? Clue should be in this one, right? Expressive? No, NRF. Yeah, button A. Full word button. Capital A. $965 ABC. $965 ABC. E13 is usually built in LED, but not the NeoPixel. Yeah, I believe that's correct. Numbers are different on ESP32. Nice. I'll whip up some like digital I/O code to test here. Do it from memory, I guess. I was gonna head to the Essentials guide, but let's see if we can do it from memory. I don't mess with digital I/O that much, so it's actually... Let's do a from. Those. Let's pin. Probably, I don't know, actually. I don't know if that's something I need to worry about. I'm not using the battery thing right now, but maybe it technically is in use still. We want to pull up or down? This one doesn't use the buttons. All right. Would it be these? Oh, the original of this is so big. But the large is so much smaller. Okay, yeah, this one's a reset button. These three are those buttons. They're tied to ground, so we would want to do a pull up. And then when we press it, it will go to ground, I think. But there's only two choices, so much like USB, we should only have to guess 3 times. Pull up. I don't know if the order of these matters. Probably don't need this to go quite as fast as it can. Something like that's probably fine, honestly, for now. The buttons are pretty small. Nice. This one's very close to reset. There we go. Cool. Gotta be something like that which already exists. I mean, Whippersnapper blinks when it sends an update. Your doc maybe make a suggestion for a milestone to have universal standard for status LED. Hard to believe something like that hasn't been done yet. Maybe it's because CircuitPython's already, yeah. That would be my guess, I guess. I mean, at one point there was like a blink colors for error output or something. Like you would watch the pattern and then you go reference like, you know, this many blinks of this color and then that many blinks of that color or whatever it would. I don't remember the exact scheme, but something like that. It would kind of tell you what the error was. But you'd have to look up the key and like, I don't know if it was the same on every device. It's used for, I think, Bluetooth maybe as well, like pairing and stuff on devices with Bluetooth. I'm not positive of that. I need to start playing with Bluetooth a bit more because I'm going to try to tackle the disk info API for Bluetooth as well. But I have way less experience with Bluetooth as I do web stuff, so I think that will be a lot more challenging for me. If that was the case, shouldn't be able to tie into digital I/O and use it. Makes sense. Would even tell you the line number. Okay. So part of this exercise has also been like, I just wanted to get familiar with building a board definition. I never have done a board definition yet, or, you know, copying and then tweaking a board definition, especially the built-in displays and stuff. Part of why I want to understand how to do this stuff, though, is I have kind of pie in the sky idea. I would love to make a web server that can be run on a server online and it can make custom builds of CircuitPython. Like, this, I think, is a super duper advanced user type of thing, not a day one CircuitPython user just learning, but super duper advanced user. Let's say they want to build a project where they're going to use this feather wing, right? And it's going to be like hard coded, you know, maybe they're going to solder it even, rather than using like the jumper, you know, the feather doubler or tripler with the headers. Like, maybe they're going to solder the header on, and at that point, you know, it's built in. At that point, it may as well be built in. And so if that person wants to use that in their project, I think it'd be pretty convenient if there was a tool that was easy enough to use for them where they could customize and set it up and say, I want these 3 pins, you know, button A, button B, button C, since those are now part of my built-in hardware. I want my display to be initialized. Potentially even other stuff if there's other things in the mix that they're interested in. You know, if there was another featherwing or something as part of the stack. I would love a website where you could go and kind of like say, you know, here's my base device. It's a Feather RP2040. I want to add these custom pins to it. I want to add this display to it, initialized in this way. And then the server makes a build, gives them a link to download the UF2, and then they can start using that custom build. This is going to be obviously like super, you know, pie in the sky. Like, we're nowhere near that yet, but this, understanding how to do this was kind of the first step in that process. And so what it would require, I think, is kind of templating out this kind of code here. And then the web application would need to be able to kind of take these templates and populate these extra lines. The displays would be much trickier, though, because it's gonna have to have, like, it's basically gonna have to have, like, all of these built in somehow. We should change, this is not the, what was it, SH? This is actually the one I did. So it would basically, it would need like a database of all of these kind of, but then ideally the user would be able to say, you know, I have a SSH 1107, it's connected via I2C, you know, build me a build that uses it as a built-in display. Old version would blink error type and line number. There you go, tens of units. Go count 2 + 9 blinks, it was barely usable. Yeah, it's tough, was tough. But better than nothing. Like, if your thing is crashing and you don't have serial, I will say, like, it is better than nothing. Like, people that really use it wouldn't be beginners anyway. That's true. Yeah, no, it would be, this would be definitely very much, like, use at your own risk, first of all. Like, it's a custom build of CircuitPython. Maybe it doesn't get built right. Maybe there's some reason why it's not an actual real build. Like, it kind of would be limited support on that front, because anytime something goes wrong, somebody's going to ask you for your boot out. Your boot out is going to say, you know, this is a custom build. So it's kind of a, you know, got to test it and run it with your own stuff and make sure. You can already do that with ChatGPT. I don't know if you could do that with ChatGPT. I'd be pretty surprised if you could do that. I haven't played with it that much, though. Maybe. Could you have it write you? I will say, though, like, I mean, if you could tell ChatGPT, hey, make me a copy of the Feather RP2040 board definition and initialize the SH 1107 display, that'd be pretty crazy. And it would spit out like this board.c file for you. That'd be super cool. I don't necessarily think it will get all of that correctly. Plus there's kind of ambiguous stuff, like there's a license in here that it shouldn't just steal. So it should relicense it under itself or something. I'm not sure how that would work. BIOS-style beep codes are too much for a microcontroller. The 3 states you set above are plenty enough already. Kind of blanks when I'm trying to reboot into bootloader. Doesn't really matter since I look for the USB drive to show up anyway. Become a cyborg and count the blinks for me. There you go. So if you take a high-speed camera and you record the NeoPixel while it's crashing, it oscillates at like 1000 hertz, and you can decode it back to text. Maybe a headless install in the field anyway from PC like LoRa's inside a mailbox. Blink codes would be helpful ultimately with the resolution. Some people believe ChatGPT can do anything. Yeah, I have seen some of that. I think, yeah, no. There are way more competent BS artists in the world. It is impressively competent as a BS artist for a computer program, I will say. But there are humans that are way better at BSing, for sure. Humans are difficult to... It's so hard to make a program that's better than a human at communication, right? Like humans, not every human is the best at communication, but in general, pretty much any human is better than pretty much any program, because programs are too simplistic and communication is so complex. I think that's a pretty tough nut to crack. I'm impressed by what they've done, but I don't think it's like quite revolutionary exactly yet. It's not. Some people believe it's kind of from straight out of a sci-fi thing where it just answers every question and knows everything, but I don't. In my mind, it's good at knowing words that are often found close to each other, right? Like, that's impressive in some ways, and you can make some pretty impressive results with it, but it doesn't know any of the things it knows. It only knows these words are likely to be grouped together in all this information that I looked at. That's helpful information. I'm not saying it's not helpful at all, but it's not all-knowing. You can only do so much with knowing which words are likely to be found together. GitHub Copilot. I do want to try GitHub Copilot. There's also one called, is it called Tab 9, I think? This one I think is different than Copilot, right? But it's a similar concept. I am interested to try one of these, because I will say I do kind of... I definitely do let the IDE do a lot of stuff. Like, I'm happy to let the IDE do anything that it wants to do as long as I understand how to trigger it properly. There are lots of things the IDE can do that I have no idea how to trigger, and I'm happy to not have it do those things and stay out of my way in those cases. But, like, once I pick up a tip where, like, the IDE will write this chunk of code for me, I tend to store it in my brain as, like, you know, letter, tab, or whatever, right? Like, my brain's not really remembering the whole thing all the way. And so I do kind of rely on that kind of stuff. I am curious about this. I haven't actually personally tried either of these, Copilot or Tab 9, but I am curious about it. It'd be interesting. It feels like it's not going to know about context-specific stuff, right? Like, it's not going to know about, you know, core C code inside CircuitPython specifically, right? So I assume it's not going to be able to fill in some of this kind of stuff. Maybe I underestimate it, though. I saw someone use ChatGPT to come up with egg-related puns for race car drivers. Such an odd request. I couldn't imagine it was somehow pre-computed. I was amazed. Yeah, there are definitely some impressive results, for sure. Egg-related puns. Is that for Tim on Twitch over there? Or Accelerate? Feels like it's got to be for that, right? Maybe not. If ChatGPT was better, people would be screaming Skynet and lost their minds. Yep, okay, nice. Yeah, Accelerate's a fun game. Let Accelerate for a bit. I got stuck on a level. I wish I could skip levels. That's my biggest gripe with Accelerate, is I wish there was a way to, like, cheat and skip a level, because, like, I made it to a level that I just don't have fun playing anymore, and there's still a few levels after it. I would really love a chance to attempt the ones that come after it, knowing that they're probably more challenging, but I'm not having fun playing the one I'm stuck on, and so I don't play it. But I totally would finish out the last couple. I need to pick up the expansions too, though. I think there's a couple of expansions now or something with some more levels, so I should pick that back up. try to get out into the new ones. It's a fun game. I do like that game. Copilot's nice to have. You just have to program with the tab key. It's like repeatedly hitting the first autocorrect. Yeah. But if you get to the point where you know like the right things to put at the beginning of your line so that you can predict what the autocomplete's going to be, then it can be quite nice for sure. 200 million repos to search from. Yeah, what would be interesting is if you could limit it, honestly. Like, it would be cool if you could tell GitHub Copilot, like, I'm working on CircuitPython, just look at the CircuitPython repo, or the CircuitPython repo and these other, like, 10 or 15 relevant ones, or whatever it is, maybe all the libraries even or something. But it'd be interesting if you could mold it a little bit more and say, like, yes, like you understand the context you got from looking at all 200 million of those, but weight higher the context that you get from this repo here, because this is the one that is like specific to the stuff I'm doing. That would be kind of interesting. Good at random plagiarization. Yeah, that's something we're gonna have to figure out. But I think we had to solve the same kind of plagiarism problem when code first started being shared online and in magazines and things anyways. I think it has automated it, which has made it a different scale of problem, I suppose, but I don't think it's an intrinsically different problem. But it can plagiarize on a much larger and a faster scale, I suppose, so it is like different scale. We'll have to figure that out. I'm kind of surprised they didn't have more reins on it out of the box, but I guess they probably have some reins on it that I'm less familiar with. But yeah, I would not want to be like I would not want to publish a tool like that, right? Like I assume you need pretty good lawyers on retainer to be able to publish that tool and not just get your faces sued off. So I don't know how it's gonna shake out. I use ChatGPT with CircuitPython lately. Only has data up to 2021. Oh, interesting. Really? Okay, I didn't know there was a cutoff. Huh. I hear they're connecting it to Skynet. Predicts the next lines too. No other input. I did not know about the cutoff 2021. That'll be interesting when it gets updated. I wonder if it will always be a couple of years behind, or if they'll ever get to the point where it's like, at 4 a.m. it updates for the day or whatever, and then it gets the previous day's stuff. Commercial AI extends the model of not paying its teachers a living wage. I think it's teachers a living wage. I gotcha. That's pretty true, yeah, I guess, because it is. But I think that the thing is, like, it's teachers in this case, as long as all the code they consumed was within the license, then its teachers published their knowledge in such a way that somebody else was allowed to use it that way without compensation. Now, if it's taking closed source code that it doesn't have a license for, and it's learning from that and it's regurgitating that is certainly exactly what you're saying, not paying for what taught it. But if it is publicly licensed code, MIT or unlicensed or some kind of like very permissive license like this, if that's the code it's consuming, while you could say like morally it would be good, it would be a good thing to do to pay the people who wrote it if you are going to make this system learn from it, that would be morally good to do. But I also think there's not necessarily a moral obligation, because those people did publish their code under that license, which says that it's allowed to be used. And so in that case, like, yes, people should give back. But I think it's not necessarily like a moral obligation to have to give back, as long as they're actually respecting the licenses. Is all of GitHub real time? ChatGPT is only... Oh, okay. Copilot is more up to date. I see. Don't look at the conversation and help with CircuitPython. At which point in the loop is to blame? Is the AI itself liable for the lawsuit? No, AI can't be liable for a lawsuit. The entity that turned it on, the entity that runs it, is like, I don't know the answer, and I'm not a lawyer. And I assume the answer has probably not been figured out yet, I guess. But in my opinion, it's the company that turned it on, right? It's whoever owns it. Same thing, like if I run a DDoS botnet and I point it at a website, like I'm the one liable for it, not like the servers that, you know, I hijacked to do it for me, or the servers that I paid for fair and square, right? Like I could pay for servers and do that. Like the person who turns the program on is liable, in my opinion. Like his copyright notice is included. Yeah. True. Yeah, as long as they're following the license, which, and I don't know to what extent they are or aren't, because I haven't used it. But I would say as long as they are following the license, they're not like, while it would be good of them to pay back, it's not like a moral, they need to pay back or they are bad, in my mind. But it would be still good too. I think there's room for that. There's room for they could choose to do good, but if they don't, it doesn't necessarily just make them bad all the way. Yeah, company who made it. Would say the one to blame is the person using the result. Maybe. We'll be back in a minute. Okay. I would download a car. Download a car right now. You got a link? When's the last time you used Tab 9? I've never used Tab 9 or Copilot. I have used ChatGPT, but not for code, really. I mean, I think I made it write a basic Python something, but not like something that I was asking it to do. It was more of a playing around with it, and I asked it a recipe, and I asked it a story, and I asked it a few other things. I can use curl right now to get code that's not licensed for commercial use, then put it in a commercial project. That doesn't make curl responsible. That's true. Yeah, that's true. I think curl, though, it's a little bit, yeah, the line is blurred in there somewhere, because curl is going out and getting exactly what you told it to do, right? Like you gave it all of its input. You said, go get this exact thing and bring it back to me. ChatGPT collected all of that stuff, and it's trying to guess what you want, right? Like you're trying to ask it what you want, but you are asking it so generically. It had to collect all of this stuff together. It doesn't, you're not directing it in as much of a go get this exact one thing for me. You're saying, like, draw upon your vast knowledge of consumed context and try to put it together and fit it in a way that makes sense towards what I have asked. And I think intrinsically that kind of shifts the onus a little bit to the entity that made the software, because their software shouldn't make it easy for users to do things that are illegal, but you could say like curl makes it easy to do things that are illegal too. And I think that's true in that scenario. And in that case, I think it's more on the user. So I guess ultimately it's kind of a case-by-case thing. In my mind, though, the curl example, the user is more at fault because they directly said, download this thing, and then curl did it, and then they used it in a way that was counter to the license. Whereas with ChatGPT, you're kind of relying on that thing to have done its due diligence. you're not directing it to say, hey, give me this exact file right here. You're saying, try to fill in this general concept for me, and I'm relying on you to do it within the bounds of the law. Like, I don't know. If you so like I know this is an extreme example, but go with me here. So if I erect a button in a public square, and the button is hooked up to a device that shoots a person, right? This is like straight out of a Saw movie or something crazy. I understand this is not a real example, but like I put a button in a public square and it's set up to shoot a person, but nobody who's in the public square knows. And a person without knowing what it does comes up and pushes the button. Did they, are they liable for murder for the, or maybe they didn't die. Let's say, hopefully they didn't die. Maybe it shot them and they recovered, hopefully. But the person who pushed the button is not liable to the same extent in that case. Like, you shouldn't just randomly push buttons. That's probably true. But they didn't know what it was going to do. And the person who set it up where there's a random button that's just chilling that shoots someone, that's the person in my mind who has committed the wrong in this case. And ChatGPT is similar. If they're giving you a loaded gun, if they're giving you a button that's set up to do something illegal, and just being like, hey, we just set that button over there, just letting you know it might do something illegal, so maybe you shouldn't press it, but we put it there for you, it's a bit weird. Copyright header of resultant response might exceed the length of the actual code. That's true as well. I think that's one of the things we need to figure out as well, is you can't have 97 pages of legal jargon for 15 lines of code. Like, any kind of system where that's the case, it's not going to work, because the average person can't just understand all of that stuff, in my mind. 3D printing made downloading a car possible. Downloading some parts of the car, maybe. Crowbar can be used for good or evil. Yeah. I mean, that's true, but some states have limitations on, like, burglary tools, right? Like, some states you're not allowed to have lockpicks. Lockpicks are also a tool. I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with them being illegal, but I think there's some potential for wiggle room there. Like, the tool, depending on what the tool is, it may or may not need to be more heavily regulated. Lawyers and judges determine who's at fault. A license can't excuse gross negligence and liability, no matter how much developers think it can. Yeah, I don't necessarily. I don't think I disagree with that too much. This might be a weird question, but do I have a pet? I do have a couple of cats. There are somewhere else. He was just one of the cats. The one that is down here around me more frequently. One of the cats hangs up in my wife's office more often than she is down here, but. The other cat, he was running around earlier. Occasionally, he'll hop up on my lap and he'll show up on stream. He did not today, but he was tearing ass back and forth around the house earlier today. Flipper 0, I don't know what that is. Or is there a gray area? Need something like geek code. Here's an example I did. Got some weather data, looks like. PyPortal network fetch data? Is that right? I don't think, does it have fetch data like that? Maybe. I'm not as familiar with the PyPortal library API and that kind of stuff. How's it going? Also, I missed that. Hi from Colombia. How's it going? Boris Own 1927. That's awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're having a nice day over there. Okay. What else do I want to work on right now? I think I probably will wrap it up pretty soon. I think what I'll do for now, actually, I want to try this new fetch submodules thing. So if I understand right, if we pull main, this has been merged. So if we pull main and it will actually update, which was the start of our trouble last night, was I couldn't get my thing to update, and we cloned a new one, which is why we then had to run fetch submodules and ran into this. If I could get it to update, then I'm pretty sure I should be able to run fetch submodules, and then it should fall back on the old way. I'm going to add the 2 folders I did and just make a commit that will just live in my fork and never really go anywhere, probably. Should maybe not do this one because I changed that to put it back to the old way. Boy, that really revved up the hands on the computer. So long now. Okay, that looks good. Use. Okay, I'm gonna try to update main. Wow, that went insanely fast. It is never that fast. I don't trust that. Also, I gotta run to the restroom, so I'm gonna be back in just a second. I'm gonna try to hit this again. What? But I didn't push. Did I really? How did that happen? Did it at least also exist in mine too? Because I definitely pushed it to mine after. What? Did I not just choose Foamy Guy? I literally just chose Foamy Guy. This is the... I didn't copy it. Oh, I mean, I did copy it and I didn't change it. Oh, that's stupid. I need to stop doing that. That's my fault. Yeah. I copied this and then I didn't change this. Oh, man. That was dumb. Yeah. Thank you for the heads up. I need to stop doing that. Yeah, that's like a shortcut. Like I should just go to the browser. I mean, I obviously don't need to go to the browser to get the right value, but I should go to the browser so that the thing I'm copy pasting is correct. And I try to take the shortcut of like copy the old one, change it to Foamy Guy. But if you fail to change it to Foamy Guy, then it's just the old one under the name Foamy Guy, which is not, obviously not what we want. Glad I didn't do main or anything crazy. Hopefully I don't have permission to do anything. Did something make it run fetch submodule? That's interesting that it was already doing submodule. Whoa, hey, whoa. This should have been my other tip too. Usually when I push when I push to my fork, usually there is a massive list of these things because I don't like keep it up to date or whatever. That should have been my tip off as well, because when I got to here, this had only one thing. I should have just been like, this is not right. Okay, now this actually exists. Bad URL when pushing to origin. Get config remote origin push URL. Remote origin. So in my case, I try to use Adafruit instead of origin in order to help keep it straight. So I could do get remote Adafruit push URL no push, and that could maybe work, but I don't think it would help me in this particular instance, right? If I mess up in the same way I did this time, it's gonna be Foamy Guy, and the problem is just that I put the wrong URL. And so Foamy Guy will allow the push, and it will use whatever the URL that's there is. So the crux of it is I just really need to not take that shortcut, since it can lead to me doing that accidentally. I do think I set up one like that before, though. That push URL to none, that way you can't actually push. I think I have done that in the past. Each repo fork. Maybe I should make a script that does my clones for me, and then like maybe it could do the clone and do some other stuff like initialize my fork and set the Adafruit one to no pushing, and so if I had like one command to do all of that, it'd be more likely that I would do it rather than like git clone I run today, and then if I remember to do the rest, then I do. But if I had a script for it, that's probably best. Okay, anyway. Yeah, thanks again for the heads up on that. So we'll go to main. What was in? Does this have makefile with a? Yeah. Yeah. This has fallback now. So this should work for us. Maybe. Maybe not. Seems like not, right? Do you? But it said something in here though, right? Do I need to do remove first? Cleans out the currently fetched. Yeah, I think we needed. I think I probably need to do that on mine. Yeah, probably that failed because it had the old way already in place or whatever. I don't really understand the specifics of what is the old way, what is the new way, and why are they not compatible. So maybe I'm oversimplifying it or something, but that's my understanding is we had the old way submodules. The old way ones can't be turned into the new way ones. You just remove them and then re-add them, and then that's how you get back to where you want to be. Which is actually nice. I think remove submodules, actually, I really like the addition of that. I'm wondering if I go back to my other repo and I remove submodules and then I refetch submodules, hopefully, maybe fingers crossed, that will get it to where those changes that I didn't make are not preventing me from pulling stuff. Hopefully that would help me get reset back to whatever's actually in main, regardless of whatever changes I have locally that I don't think I made myself, or if I did, it wasn't intentional. This does take a minute, huh? Once you clear them out. Okay, made it. Yeah, those properly fall back. Just make. Doesn't work because we're not in that port anymore. Or I mean that branch. All right. I'm going to be wrapping it up after this. Okay, Pico made it. That's mainly what I was trying to do, is make sure I could actually get a build after I did a make fetch submodule. So looks like we're good there. I'm gonna head out for now. So thanks everybody for watching. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. For the folks that are watching on Twitch, I will raid this person, PG5 Studio. They appear to be working on a 2D tile graphics game, which I'm a sucker for. So check them out. It looks pretty interesting. Thanks for the follow. Don't call me late for dinner. Appreciate the follow there on Twitch, my friend. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I'll put in this. It will take it a second to get there, but eventually the Twitch will raid over to there. And I will call it a day with that. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you next time. Probably be around a little bit on Monday at some point, and then we'll be back on Friday for the deep dive for sure as well. So if not sooner. So have a good weekend, and I'll see y'all later.